Greetings. Make sure this light. Ooh, that pistachio tastes so good. I know. It does. Ooh. Greetings, everyone. Praying you are well. Sending you much love of the highest vibrations. Trying to get this light right. Thank you for joining me. If you do come in the room, please let me know where you're coming in from. I am currently in Crete, which is a very, very powerful place. And I just wanted to jump on and share some real-time ascension updates with you all. Greetings, sis. I will let you go live in a minute if that's you making a request once I kind of share this story, but please do stick around. Looking forward to your feedback. If you've got any questions and stuff, just put them in the comments below. But as mentioned, I'm currently in Crete, and if you've been seeing some of my posts over the past couple of days, and especially today, you might get a bit of an understanding of why it is that I'm here. There's a reason why I want to share this with you, because most of my life I am going through some sort of spiritual journey or being taken to some place which has some past life connection, and is also part of helping to activate and shift the energy in this now. And so I wanted to share one of my experiences that I've had since I've been here, because I think it's important for people to understand, and I think that it was very significant what happened. Greetings, Michelle, and greetings to everyone that's coming in the room. Please just let me know that you are here and put a comment in the box. So about 2 weeks ago, no, maybe 3 weeks ago now, I received a contact from a friend of mine, somebody that I had met last year when I was in Crete doing some work, who had basically offered me the opportunity to come back to Crete and do some work. And it was interesting because the last time I was in Crete was a year and a month ago, and when I was there I also fractured my ankle. So a lot of you know that for most part of last year I was off of my foot. And at the time, as you know, everything has a spiritual meaning. And at the time, I was being called by Spirit to step up into another level of leadership. And I was still reluctant. I was still questioning myself, questioning whether I was good enough, questioning whether I was worthy enough. And when you're questioning yourself, you will attract people in your life who are going to challenge you, who are probably going to suppress you and put you down, so that the conditions are perfect for you to kind of break out against that resistance and come into your power. And for me, I don't think it was, sis, so I'll definitely give you the opportunity. So for me, at that particular time, me going through that was telling me that I wasn't listening to myself and I wasn't ready. It was on the right side of my body, and the right side is about masculine energy and about moving forward. And so for me, everything is about symbology. I read into everything because we are living a multidimensional reality. So I knew that at that time when I had experienced that fracture, it was because I wasn't listening to myself. And so I had to sit down and for 9 months just really deal with my own fears and my insecurities and anything that was really blocking me from following the God in me. That's really important, because we are here to learn to live purely by our heart, not by the expectations of others, not through our traumas, not through our limiting beliefs. And in order to be able to really live from the heart and really live from the God in you, you have to be able to just do what it is that your heart says to do without any fear, without any fear of hurting or harming anybody else. It's about true trust and oneness with your own soul. So I had to sit out for about 9 months whilst I was doing the real clearing work internally on myself, so that I would get to a point where I would trust myself beyond anything. So fast forward to this year, as I said, about 3 weeks ago, getting some contact for me to come back to Crete. And I just knew that something amazing was meant to happen. Something was going to happen for me being here. Now, the original intention was for me to come and develop a project, which for me, the idea that I had was around female leadership. And so I came here on the proviso that I was dealing with that. So got to the airport, and I remember that when we had the Zoom meeting to connect everyone in the team, there was one person that kind of stuck out to me, and we just connected. Hadn't really said much words to each other, but we had just connected. And for me, that's a sign that, that the energy was good. So when I got to the hotel, he was the first person that I saw, and it felt like somebody I had known my whole life. You know those moments when you meet someone and you're like, I've met you before, I know you before. So instantly we had this connection, and the group of people that were there, we were all quite connected, but me and this person had a significant connection. And so as the days progressed, it was coming up to, no, as the days progressed, as soon as I got here, the first thing I noticed was the way that people were staring at me. And it was with deep intent. Like people would literally stop and look twice and or feel my energy and respond. And I remember at first I felt really annoyed because of the way I felt like they were looking at me. And even this brother, he said to me after a few days, maybe they're not looking at you because, you know, they want to harm you. Maybe they're so in awe, or maybe they're feeling your energy and they don't know what to do with it. So then that made me kind of change my response to how they were looking at me. But that was the first thing. It was really intense. It was like being in a movie and you're the only one that everybody can see. So there was that, but it was also bringing up some ancestral stuff because there's a lot of Caucasian people here, right? So when you are the only black person or the only black woman and you've got a lot of Caucasian people staring at you, yeah, it brings up the hairs on your back, and we naturally go into this defensive mode, like why are they looking at us, all of this kind of things. And so he kind of put in my ear, don't worry about that, it might be for another reason. So that was the first thing. Then I noticed that when I was here, I just kept on dreaming, and all of my dreams were telling me different things. And I remember one time I woke up and I had a dream about a woman called Queen Cassiopeia, and I didn't even know who she was. And I Googled the name the next morning, and Queen Cassiopeia was the first Ethiopian queen of Crete. And the history of Crete is very interesting because when we look at the history of Crete, it is the one of the main is the southernmost indigenous part of Europe, and they say that the wisdom of Africa migrated to this place, and people from different continents would come to this place because it was in between Africa, it's in between Europe, it's in between Asia, so it's in between all of the different major continents. And so it was a place of commerce and travel. It was also a place of wisdom. So oracles, priestesses would come from Africa, scholars would come from Africa, and they would come to this place. This place was also one of the original matriarchal societies of the Bronze Age, meaning that it was ruled by the feminine and the balance of masculine and feminine energy. So as I was dreaming, I was getting more and more of this information. I was absorbed in learning about the history because something about this place was bringing up memories in my spirit. So I knew that it was something that I needed to do. So I had woken up the next morning and I had the dream about Queen Cassiopeia. Wasn't sure who she was, but when I Googled her, she was the first Ethiopian queen that came to Crete. She also had her daughter, which was Andromeda. And now when I'm looking at these words, I'm also looking at the symbology of them. Andromeda is the mother galaxy to our galaxy, to this Earth, right? So the Andromeda represents the next universe above us, which represents the mother. And Alkaline, which is the galactic center, is basically the universe that represents the father, right? And we deal with everything based on symbology, as above, so below. So when I was looking at these stories of Queen Cassiopeia and her daughter Andromeda, when I realized that Andromeda was the princess, so she was her daughter, and Queen Cassiopeia was a woman who was so beautiful that she absorbed all of that beauty and became vain. So there was a sea, in this mythology, there was a sea god who wanted a sacrifice, and so she sacrificed her daughter, Andromeda, to this sea god. Now, there was a movie that actually depicts this called Clash of the Titans, and I had that dream the night before, I think it was the solstice, so it was around the time when that Titanic submarine had been submerged, right? And the dream was talking about the sacrifice of Andromeda to the Titans. So again, more things that were starting to fall into place. And so when it came to the solstice, we were on the sea and we talked about the fact that it was the solstice the next day, and we had made a decision to do a ritual just to celebrate the solstice. When I got up that morning, I was guided to go to the top of the mountain. So there's a mountain behind where we're staying, and on top of that mountain is a church. And it's not just like a closed church, it's actually a church on top of a hill. So you can see over basically the whole of the country. You could see into the sea. So it was a high focal point. And so me and my brother, Elder, we went to go and just sit down and pray and just bring in these solstice energies. Now, the thing is about this particular land as well, when in the Bronze Age of the matriarchal society, when we had that feminine rule, what came in to demolish that was the Greek Orthodox, was this patriarchy, which was this idea of one God. This was this whole Zeus rule. this whole dominant patriarchal energy. And that was the energy that kind of overthrew the matriarchs and put, this one God, this one man with the big beard God, this masculine dominant God as our divine, source, as our representation of divinity. Whereas before that, it was always man and woman together, and the females were like the outward expression. They were the ones that would come out and deal with the community because they have nurturing talents, and because, as oracles and soothsayers and healers, we knew how to connect with the people. The matriarchs were the ones who were responsible for making sure that people were happy, making sure that people were well, making sure that people were, enjoying relationships and lives and knew about the herbs. And, they were the ones that looked after the people, and the males were the ones that did the roles that made sure that we had food to eat and organized, things like that. So there was this diarchy rather than within the matriarchy where masculine and feminine energies were working in alignment together. So long story short, we decided to go on the top of that mountain. And so we walked up together. And when we got to the top, we saw the church. We kind of walked around it, tried to go inside of it. It was closed. The scene was so beautiful. So we were just taking in the energies, and we decided to find a spot, and we just set out our cloth, and we put down some crystals. I didn't really have that much tools, so we just made it very simple. We had found some oranges, isn't it? Yeah. So we just had nature. We just brought some elements of nature. And what was beautiful was that we were both together, masculine and feminine, and our energies just clicked. So we knew that there was something that we was meant to do. So we sat down, and I'm going to bring Elder on as well, because he was there, and I really would like for others to hear somebody else's experience of being in a multidimensional experience with me, and because there's not always people around to share that with, and we are literally living multidimensional reality. So when you meet somebody who seems like you've had a past life connection with them, you've both met up in this time to do jobs that sometimes even you guys don't realize, and you activate and trigger soul memories within each other. We've all got different soul contracts, especially at this time when we are activating and clearing old timelines and clearing old ways. And so my mission on this particular journey was to atone for some of the abuse that happened to those black oracles, those powerful black women who came to these lands and taught the wisdom about the priestesses of Isis, and shared that knowledge and that wisdom, who were then captured and used for their knowledge and wisdom, and then ultimately raped and abused, right? So as we got to the top of that mountain, we sat down, we did our altar, and we started to pray. And when we prayed, that prayer was powerful, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Do you want to come in or do you want to stay there? All right. So
that's okay. I can join you.
Yeah. So this is Brother Elder.
Hello.
Yes, he's here with me, and you might find that we look alike because we are soul family, right? So I'll just explain a little bit, and then you jump in and give your, because I won't remember everything. No, stay. Yeah. So we were sitting down and we did the prayer, and after the prayer was finished, we kind of felt the energy, right? How was the prayer for you?
It was very powerful, and yeah, so good.
Yeah. Yes, you can speak.
So it was very powerful. So when we finished the prayer, the guy came, no?
Yeah.
And he had this strong, aggressive energy.
Yeah. So basically, as we finished praying, we felt the energy, and we were now starting to write the things we wanted to release, wasn't it? Yeah. And in the prayer, we were just asking for the rebalancing of divine masculine and feminine energy. We was asking for healing for humanity. That was the vibe of it, right? And this man came from nowhere. The first thing is had this white beard, right? Just like Zeus, he was wearing this green top, and he had a hose in his hand, and he was walking straight towards me. And what was he saying?
He was saying, what are you doing here? Why are you here? What are you doing here? Whatever you are doing here, you should not be doing here, because this is the Orthodox
the Greek
Orthodox Church, and you should not be here. If you don't go, I will call the police.
Yeah. But he was really aggressive. It was like, how dare you come here and do this here, right? And First of all, I felt this kind of uncomfortability. It was like I got a flashback to what it would have been like in the past. But he was so aggressive, and he was saying things like, this is the house of God. So as he said that, I said, so do we not both worship and honor the same God? Is there not one God? Like, why are you angry? why are you mad? Because he was furious, and it was literally like he wanted to hose me down, but we had set up this space and he was just moving around us, but he couldn't get in. And part of me felt like, you know what, let me just get up and go. But the other part of me was like, no, like, we have every right to be here. And it wasn't even like a defensive part, like, oh, we have every right to be here. It was just like, look, we all worship the same creator. We didn't come here to defile the area or the space. However, you cannot come and say that this is a house of God and you're coming to defend this house of God, yet you want to abuse us. And that was the kind of energy. So, yeah, he was trying to, he carried on being aggressive. And I think I said some words to him. What do you remember that I said to him, Elder?
No, you say to him that you will not allow that he will disrespectful, that he will be disrespectful towards you and aggressive toward you in the house of God.
Yes. And what was it like? So I basically, as I said, there was this spirit in me that was not necessarily defiant, but I was like, how are you going to tell me that I can't worship and honor the creator here? And so when I said that to him, I think he got even more mad, isn't it?
Yes.
He got even more mad. And what was beautiful was he then turned to Elder as if to say, you know, why are you letting her do this? And, you know, like I tried to try and get him to turn against me or to silence me. And Elder's medicine is humor. His weapon is humor. So he kind of was like, oh, what do you mean, these things? And he picked up the orange to kind of say, well, look, it's just an orange. Like, what's wrong with you? But this man was adamant, and it was like, he wanted to say, you know, what you're doing, you know, he wanted to define what we were doing, but he couldn't. And so...
What's that? What was that? What's that?
Yeah.
This is an orange. Would you like some? Because
It was mad. And so, I mean, at one point, I ain't gonna lie, I was a bit intense. But then when I realized what was happening here, because he represented that old world, right? He represented that old, archaic, dominant God that says, you don't have a right to be here, while still talking about, you know, God. And it was so deep. So at that point, he got ferocious. He came round and he tried to pick up things from our altar space. And I was like, no, you will not disrespect. You know, I just had to let him know anyway. But it was done with a level of authority, which even I was a bit like, wow. You know, it was peaceful, but it was very, very authoritative.
Yes.
Just like those divine women
Yes.
would have, right? And the beautiful thing was that Elder was there protecting me. He didn't like take over. He just held space. And it's the first time we'd done any kind of spiritual anything together. This is the first time we've actually met each other, right? And so he got frustrated and he walked off, and then he kind of went to speak to the local people and tried to get them to come and basically run us out. But a few of them came up the stairs, but they couldn't pass, so they walked down. And then another man came round in a car, and he had another man, and I don't think he could speak much English, but he came out and he was like pointing his finger with that same kind of energy, and we didn't really say nothing. And then another man was with him and he was speaking English, and he was trying to say, oh, you know, you need to leave here. And I said, no, we're not going to leave, but we will leave when we are ready. We are praying and we are celebrating the solstice together, and we're not doing anything wrong. We're not causing any harm, and you will not speak to us like that. And that's it. And literally we just sat there, and the man was like, you know what, I understand. You know, I'm going to tell them, and I understand. And he just let us do our thing. And the thing is, it felt so powerfully significant, because there were flashes in that experience where I'd thought, if this was like, let's say at those times of those patriarchal rules, I could have been raped, I could have been abused, just because of the way in which I honor the creator, which is based on nature, and also just for being a woman. And it felt so powerful, like we had symbolically atoned for all of those people, all of those women who might have been persecuted, for honoring the divine in that feminine way. And so it's just been a powerful experience ever since. Yes. I mean, what do you want to share as your reflection of what you felt like it was for you?
No, for me, it was very powerful, because I felt that we done something towards the collective, and I feel that that is something that it needed to be done in order to move forward the shift that we are living now.
There you go.
You know.
Yeah.
So very powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh no, listen, you were meant to be there. We were meant to be there together. And it's like ever since we've just been finding ourselves being activated. We're recognizing how that masculine energy is coming up in so many ways and is coming up as being destructive. Even in the most masculine of people, they're going through these emotional pangs that they're finding so difficult to deal with, because we all have to open up to that feminine aspect of ourselves. We have to be able to open up to our emotions, because without doing that, they become anger and they destroy things. And, the world that we've been living in, where it's been, man against woman and, just war and this single-minded mentality, it is that patriarchal energy, because our true nature is balance. Our true nature is, working together. Our true nature is, even the brain has two halves, but it works as a whole. And so as we start to come back into awareness of how to work together again, we have to be willing to learn from each other, learn to tap into our emotions, learn to be direct, and balance those masculine and feminine energies between us. And also it may come up that our divine masculines will be called to protect us, and we've to protect them, because that's also part of the journey that's happening right now. And so it was important for me to share that, because even the information I'm sharing about the Sibylline oracles and this missing part of our African history, which is world history, is also connected to the shame and guilt that we feel as women when it comes to our nature and our spiritual nature. And that level of spirituality that we have, the intuition, the empathy, the healing, the compassion, the understanding, the ideas, the vision, the collective, that feminine aspect of our consciousness is coming back online, so that we can have a unified reality. So as much as I was coming here and I have developed this amazing female leadership program and actually started to sow the seeds of my life work, there was also this spiritual, symbolic, collective healing that needed to go on as well. This activation that took place in real time for the collective, to show us what that really looks like when that old world, and those old situations and those old timelines come into the now, that you have the chance to readdress them. You have a chance to atone them. And we are here doing that every single day. So you'll find that things will come up in your life. And it will seem like it's a collective thing. It's something that everybody's feeling. It's for you at that time to go through whatever it is that you're going through, because you're doing it not just for yourself, you're doing it for the rest of the collective as well. So yeah, just wanted to share that. I'll be sharing a bit more over the next couple of days about the Sibylline oracles. But what I want to say as well is that we have been separated in so many different ways and turned against each other. And really, there is only one race, and that's the human race. And so there is only one history, and that is our collective history. And so once we continue to find the threads that bind us, rather than the threads that separate us, that is when we will truly ascend as a collective. And that is what we're here to do. What do you want to add, Brother Elder?
No, that's more than perfect. Thank you. You said it all.
But yeah, so if there's any questions that you want to ask quickly, I know there was some requests to jump on and jump into the conversation, so I'm going to invite you in and see if you want to chat. But it definitely was a really powerful experience. Signs and wonders that we need to see to know that the world is changing and has changed, and it should give us the confidence to stand up for what it is that we know is true and right. And we need to start releasing those wounds, releasing those shadows, so that we can start to listen truly and clearly to our heart and not be guided by ego or guided by, the status quo or what the rest of the world thinks. We need to be those conscious vessels through which the Creator can speak and channel and express. And we only do that when we come into deeper connection with our true and authentic self. Greetings, sis.
Greetings. I don't know how I ended up here. I saw that you was going live, and
Greetings.
in my fumbling to go live, I sent this request. But it's always good to speak to you. Always.
Oh, bless you, sis. Girl, we out here doing the do.
I know the magic that you are creating in Crete. Even from here, I can feel it. So the people that you are working with, oh my God, I can just imagine how electrifying and how blessed and that space is. So yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing, and I can't wait to bring you out here, because I realize that, you know, there's so much richness, and we sometimes we get trapped and stuck in our own little world, and we're imposed by all of the crises that they want to put on us. But there's a big world out there, and it's ours for the taking. And you're finding that so many more people are starting to think, you know what, I've only got one life. Why don't I just get up and follow my dreams? Why don't I just get up and follow my mission and my vision and my calling? You know, and I think that that's what's exciting right now for me. It's that untethering and that ability to really just trust in whatever it is that spirit is telling you to do and to follow it, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. Sis. I mean, I'm just tingling, you know, I tingle my stomach, my heart.
Yes. Girl, because it's our story. You know how long we've been looking for ourselves in our story, like for so long. And as I said, even it's so interesting, because even when people have been staring at me, like I said to you at first, I was kind of like, you know how we get, because we're so used to being stared at and dealt with, like, so we're all, our back is naturally up. But I've had so many elder Greek women come up to me and be like, you know what, you are so beautiful, or you know, you the way you dress every day, I'm in awe. And these are people that I was thinking was screwing me, you know. And in these ancient lands, this like the ancient memory of us is still here. And so when we're looking for ourselves in history and we realize that we don't find it, it's sometimes because there was a deliberate attempt to get rid of what it is that we represented. Don't forget, we had also 400 years of enslavement to kind of desensitize us to our own power. And history in a way has kind of been adapted to ensure that we don't see ourselves. So when we now start to come into the awareness, not just through history, but also through the messages and the downloads that we get from spirit, from source, because we are the custodians of spirit. Do you understand what I mean? We are, you know, the different communities on the planet hold a different frequency, and we are the spirit beings. So when we're no longer connected to the true nature of our spirit, when we're now worshiping something else outside of ourselves, we lose that connection, you know. That time of the shift where in this, the time I'm talking about, it's like that's the time where religion was manipulated, consciously manipulated and used as a weapon against the whole world. And because we are rooted in spirit, we found the spirit in it, which is why we're the biggest ones to be in the church, whether it's to Jesus, whether it's to you know, Allah, whoever it is, we're there. But there was a deliberate attempt to not only control us, who were the women that were connected to God and bringing forth that knowledge, but also to disconnect humanity from the creator, so that we're given some kind of, you know, a practice which doesn't necessarily always have the substance, and was spread across the world through fear and hate and blood and killing. And that's why so many of us feel so disconnected. But when we look at our indigenous cultures, we realize that they weren't worshipping the trees or worshipping the wind. They were acknowledging that that is the way that the Most High expresses itself. That's what we can see. And when they talk about the divine feminine being God, it's not that she is God, it's that she represents the aspects and the qualities, because when you come out of your mother's womb, she's the first person you see. You eat, you drink from her breast. She's the lawmaker in your life, and we give thanks and we honor that. So here it's just so beautiful to be able to understand what has happened to us, and then unlock your heart and your mind to allow you to just truly be who it is that you are, you know, without the limits, without the conditions, and truly consciously connect to your spirit as you know what I mean, and show up in the world as yourself. Sorry, my spirit was going on going on one at that time.
It needs to be put out there. It needs to be put out there. It's like they are waiting for the permission to live, and they don't need the permission to be. I mean, you know, you mentioned, you know, us being in traditional churches, but when the women in church catch that spirit, when the spirit, there's nothing they can do about it. Do you know what I mean? They shake and this and that, because the spirit is there. As you said, it's always been there.
Yeah, and we know the power we hold. And the reason why this is so important, especially for Black women, is because we've been searching for ourselves. We've been turned away from our power. We've been turned away from our own beauty. We've been taught to look at everybody else as better than us. Even when we go to these spiritual events, we're chasing an essence of something. We know it's never really the fullness, but we know that there's something. And it's because we haven't seen ourselves in this story. And also, even when we do just show up as ourselves, the world wants us to be something different, wants us to tone down. But there's also some internal work that needs to be done for us so that we can walk in that power with grace and also step up as those nurturers and supporters of humanity, because there's no point us saying that we are the creators of humanity when we are so against ourselves and in hate with ourselves that we also can't embody that position and that role. You know what I mean? Because it takes a certain level of responsibility and self-mastery and, you know, walking in a certain vibration, you know, and a frequency, which some of us can't say that we are truly able to be because we have so much energies that are unresolved, whether it's the trauma, whether it's the pain, whether it's the hurt, you know, and that's where that energy of the dark feminine or the dark priestess or the dark prophetess comes on, because she's not in her power, she's in her hurt, you know, and then we cause harm to each other. So I believe that the symbolic things that we do on a collective level are great, but the work that we do individually is where the real change happens, you know?
Absolutely. You know, just spending time in the temple of self. Yeah.
Yes, girl. Oh, it's so nice to speak to you.
I can't wait till you get back so we catch up properly, and when you go to Crete again, please, you know I'm going to be there with you.
Yeah, so we've got another one. So I've actually finalized everything for the first retreat, which will be in the first week of October. So the details will be coming out next week, and that's going to be, listen, I've never curated such an amazing event like this, because it not only combines, you know, the leadership skills and understanding how to embody those leadership skills, especially when we're in a masculine driven world. I speak to so many women who are on high levels in their roles, and they've had to become so masculine in order to get there. You know, they feel very alone, they don't have any support, their work-life balance is out of pot. So I really think it's important that we start really developing an awareness of feminine leadership skills to balance off those masculine you know, things of presenting and negotiating and directing, and balancing it with learning how to tap into your intuition, looking after your well-being, right?
Yeah. That's so true, because I started a new job 2 weeks ago, and a lot more responsibility. It's a bigger role. I'm on display. There's not many people that look like me where I work, and you know, I have to be so mindful about not hiding myself, not leaving myself behind. You know?
Girl, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's so on point, because even one of the downloads that I got this morning, because I remember I went to the sea yesterday, and I sat down next to the sea for about an hour and a half, and I was just connecting with Yemaya and the Mummy Water Priestesses, and I started to speak in tongues, but it was like this power came in me. And you know, when I was waking up today, it was like, we have to learn to master our power, master our light, master our dark. Like, don't be afraid of that part of you that can destroy things. Learn to balance it. Do you know what I mean? Because we would rather then go into an environment and play small rather than stand in that power. Do you know what I mean? And it's really, and it's really about us really accepting ourselves and being willing to do that work. But that spiritual aspect as well, because we are visionary, purposeful women, right? We're not just coming here to just serve ourselves. We have a vision that, you know, we want to help people. We want to help the world. We want to just do the best that we can in our roles, and to be supported in that as well. And so I really feel like part of my job is to not only help give those practical soft skills and teaching you how to embody feminine leadership, to balance your masculine, but also developing that spiritual, intuitive part of you, because spiritual intelligence is vital, especially when you're leading an organization. Self-mastery is vital when you're leading an organization, because the trauma or the culture of the leader then spills down into everything else. And my vision is for conscious leadership, where we're not just having these leaders who are transactional, you know, I need you to do a job and you just do it, and I don't care about how you feel, and I don't care about, it's got to be about mutual investment. It's got to be about mutual connection. That's what that age of Aquarius is. So you've got to be invested in people. You've got to be able to be able to see someone's talent and not just try and abuse it, but how do you nurture it and develop it and grow it? That is female leadership. It's about transformation. It's about the collective. And so even we as women, even though we know that this is the archetype that we have to step in, or the archetype that our ancestors, the ancestral women were in, we have to now start activating it and embodying it for ourselves as well. And so the program that we've put together is going to allow us to do that, and it's also going to give us an opportunity to explore the matriarchal societies of Crete, so that we can get an understanding of how matriarchal society really operated. You know, women were in politics and they were running the governance and the finance, you know what I mean, like that. And it's not to say that it was a one-way rule. It's just that the women were already used to running the houses, so running finances and doing all of that kind of things is natural. Also in indigenous cultures, also in indigenous cultures, you have this round table kind of politics, you know, where you have the elders and maybe a few of the wise younger ones, and we debate and we make decisions together. Those are the kind of things that need to happen, and I know those are the kind of things that I see in the vision of the future that I can see. And so each one of us is part of that change. So learning to look back into the past and see how women leadership isn't new. You know, it's not something that's not been done before. We have done it before. So when we now can look back into that past and gain some of the skills and look back and say, okay, that worked, that didn't work, it gives us also the level of confidence that allows us to be authentic in our leadership. You know, rather than thinking that we've got something to prove, rather than thinking that we've got to, you know, slaughter a few other sisters on the way up. Do you know what I mean? Like learning that there is a way in which we can tap into those feminine energies, balance it with our masculine energies, and work collectively. So I'm really excited about that retreat. It's going to be a 7-night, 8-day retreat. And it's, well, I would say more a training program, as well as an opportunity to explore this place. And I'm telling you, this place is beautiful. I have never seen such clear waters in the sea. Like, sis, is beautiful. And I speak to loads of different people every day who have decided to come from wherever they live in the world and come and live here because of the good fresh air and because of the food. And do you know what I mean? And the world is our oyster. Sometimes we're afraid to travel and really go and plant ourselves into other places. But like I said at the beginning of this, the biggest thing that has been done against humanity is the divisiveness, you know, this way of thinking that we are separate from each other, separate from nature, and separate from God. And that is the biggest issue, you know. So I'm really excited about that program. I'm doing it in partnership with an organization called Fractality, who's been hosting me here, who also hosted us last year. Beautiful 5-star environment, but also surrounded by nature and the sea. And so yeah, I will be sharing some more information about that, but I'm just looking forward to stepping into that space and connecting with the divine sisters that's meant to be there, because this trip has really opened my eyes and my heart to what's possible when we follow our hearts, when we even do things that maybe other people might not yet understand, when we follow that vision in our heart and do what we've got to do, and then it all works out. Do you know what I mean? That's the vibes that I'm feeling and appreciating right now. So thank you so much, sis, for spending this time with me.
I will see you.
Yes, and well done and good luck with all of your new changes and advancements, and I look forward to us catching up very soon. I'll be back next week. Yeah?
Bye-bye.
All right, sis. Love you. Bye. Oh, and Purposeful Coach says, greetings, sis. Michelle Scoffy says, word. Grateful. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I will share some more information when I return. But yeah, and also I do have some videos on my YouTube which talks about the Sibylline oracles. I think it's called The Lost History of the Black Woman. I will find a link and post it up, and then once we have got the promo ready for our retreat in October, I will let you know. All right, so sending you all much love, Sister Patricia. Thank you for being there. It seems like we're supposed to bow out together. And I love you all, and I'll see you all again soon. If you're not wanting any readings or anything, because people have been asking, please just DM me, and when I get back, I will organize that. All right? Much love. Bye, sis. Bye.